Thanks for tuning in to the Replatform podcast sponsored by Ampliance and Clavio. You're listening to myself, James Gurd, and my wonderful co-host, Paul Rogers. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. Struggling with the internet a little bit, but seems to be good so far. How are you doing?
The WeWork internet, it seems to be a thing of complete temperament. Anyway, let's hope the internet doesn't scupper our plans for this cracking episode, because we've got another interesting guest lined up. So let me set up the episode and we'll introduce you to our guest, Rohan. So firstly, thank you for listeners for tuning back in. If it's your first time, we appreciate you giving us a chance. We hope you enjoy the content. If you subscribe, you get episode alerts every week, and we'd love a like on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. Helps us to boost our rankings. Thank you very much. So our topic today is the impact that Stylitics outfitting technology is having on e-commerce revenue. So Stylitics is the world's largest producer of shoppable digital content for the fashion industry. I think, I looked to the stats, it's supporting 50 million shoppers per day with personalised inspiration from over 3,000 brands across almost 100 of the world's largest retailers. So it's got a really good pedigree, and we're going to have an interesting discussion today to understand about what the role of outfitting is. So what type of business does outfitting technology best suit and why? How can e-commerce teams blend automation and brand control? How are the Stylitics customers using the tool to drive ROI, and where's their roadmap heading? So welcome to Rohan, who's joined us from the warm climate of Dubai today.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
So you've got an interesting background. I was doing my usual LinkedIn stalking when we first connected. So you've got an innovation and product management background. You've had spells with Kindle Amazon. You founded Stylitics in 2011. You were selected as the NYC Fashion Fellow in 2014 as a rising star, which is amazing. And you're part of the YPO Global Leadership Community for CEO. So quite a busy man.
As it turns out, I guess so.
Yeah. Excellent. Do you want to just explain to people in your own words, because some people will know and others won't know what Stylitics is. What do you do?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like we're a well-kept secret, and other times I feel like we are finally getting our name out there. So we're basically powering outfitting, styling, bundling now for the home categories at scale for the largest brands and retailers. And effectively what that means is that we're helping them show their shoppers how to style a product and show them in a visual way. So, just if you flip through a fashion magazine and you see, those laid out looks that are very visually exciting and compelling and kind of help you see how to style a small selection of products, we're actually doing that at scale on a daily or real-time basis for a retailer's entire catalog. And so, if you're looking at a product detail page, for example, and you're looking at a blazer, our job is to take the retailer's product feed, use our technology to create this composite, shoppable, digital, dynamic image, which has an outfit in it, do that for 20, 30, 50 outfits for that product, make sure there's a lot of variety for occasions and themes. So now as a shopper, you can actually see all of the different ways you can style this in a very brand approved way, but the brand is able to do it sort of 1,000 times the scale that typically their merchants and their stylists would be able to do. And there's a lot more that we do, but really it's just providing that moment of inspiration and for creating confidence for the shopper at that moment of purchase.
Right. And you mentioned that you typically work with larger businesses, but I guess across everything, do you also work with smaller businesses? What's your average, or what size is your average client, and what type of verticals and industries are you working across?
Yeah, we most of our customers are the very largest in their category. So we sort of started there. So, as an example, it's most of the major department stores. It's mostly brands that are in the hundreds or of millions in revenue, or I think we have more than $50 billion a year revenue customers. That said, we are increasingly able to support customers who are not very early, but say 20, 25 million in revenue. The real key point for us is that they need to have a catalog for about a few hundred products, and typically across 3 to 5 different categories. That's really when bundling products together makes a lot of sense for them. And then to answer your question in terms of which categories, so we're in most of the major or all the major fashion categories, all the accessories, apparel, footwear, beauty. We're bundling beauty in. And now increasingly, as we have a lot of major sporting brands and retailers, there's a lot of sports sets and kits and camping equipment and that kind of thing, just other things that people want to buy together. And a couple of years ago, we actually entered the home and sort of home goods categories. And now we have, at least in the US, about 8 out of the 10 largest, and then a few others. And this is really helping people to see how, if you're going to buy that couch, what are the other things that you should get with the sofa or the couch? And so that's been a really, really effective category for us as well. And we're, we work with toys and baby and looking at pets. So it's mostly home and fashion, but we're looking at other categories too.
Great. And in terms of the integration, can you just talk us through like how, because obviously working with that size of retailer, you're going to be working with a number of different kind of big platforms, probably quite a few kind of bespoke tech stacks. Through what an integration looks like, and how you work on that side.
Yeah, we I think really we spent 2 or 3 years just trying to get that piece of it to be as seamless as possible, because as you pointed out, there's a lot of different stacks. Some of them are custom, some of them are obviously the major platforms. And so really what we need from the retailer is their product feed. And this is their standard product feed that they have. And what we've tried to do from that point is to say, as long as we're synced up on that, we have a team in-house, our sort of feed ingestion team. We'll do all the heavy lifting of mapping your fields to our standard taxonomy. We'll add a lot of attributes that help our algorithms work. So we'll actually triple or quadruple the number of fields that we have for the taxonomy. We get the images as is. So even though we're showing outfits and bundles in a laydown format, we'll do all of the post-production. So they can send us their standard model images, and then we remove the model, straighten the arms, make sure it's all sort of set up. But we of course do this at massive scale because we're getting hundreds of thousands of products coming through. And now once we have, better attributed data, totally cleaned up using our AI systems, and we have images that are ready for bundling, then our tech is actually going to apply a whole variety of data sets as well as brand specific rules that we can definitely talk a lot more about. And we create these bundles, and we do this, at scale. So the retailer throughout this point hasn't had to do anything. Now the merchants there can go into our platform in the back end. They can look at things. They can provide us feedback, especially in the early days if they feel like something needs an edit. But really, it's totally hands off from that perspective. Once we have the feed, then the only other thing we really ask for is to say, look, embed our JavaScript onto your site, do it in a couple of different places, and we give them a variety of sort of a library of options. If they want to add CSS or they want to customize a little bit, they're welcome to do so, or we give them a lot of variations. And then once that's embedded, the last thing we need is just for them to put some JavaScript so we can actually follow the orders all the way through. That's it. And once they have that, then the rest of it's pretty turnkey. And we can run the A/B testing ourselves. We can add configurations. We can report back to them. And so fairly proud of having taken a lot of the work out of it. And usually, we fall into the very light to light lift for the kind of payoff that they get.
So you've got an AI and ML engine that sits behind this, auto-generates product associations, because obviously people want to be able to create bundles at scale and minimize manual effort where relevant. What I'd love to, I guess a quite key question people would have is, what are the data points it's analysing to make these associations and ensure there's relevance? And is any of it visual matching? Are you using any like image matching, or is it about underlying data points around sales and category and attributes? So how does that piece work?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of different things going into it. So let's just say, James and Paul was the hot new brand that was out there, and
if only
there's still time. And so if you guys came on, first of all, once we ingested your product, we wouldn't need you to tell us everything that has to match. We have obviously 100 billion sessions a year of 100 billion sessions a year of seeing what outfits have worked for others. We have our own systems. We can start spinning up really high quality, visually mapped outfits, as well as using the underlying data. So to answer your question, we're definitely analyzing the images and breaking it into the color, the colors we need and some of the other attributes we need, but we also leverage the underlying data. So that piece of it is, we can run very good standard outfits from just kind of day one. But as you'd imagine, every brand, every retailer has a different view, especially the ones we work with, a different view on how they want different categories styled. They have a brand voice, they have a brand perspective. And so the really challenging and interesting problem in this area that I feel like we've now, after many years of doing this, really solved well, is being able to absolutely reflect every nuance that a brand may have or want to share with us. And these evolve over time as new collections come in, without them having to, give us additional data. So as an example, right, you might have, let's say Nike and Puma, so work with both. And these are all, the descriptions here are all kind of made up, right? So Nike might say that, we have this new line of leggings, they're sustainable materials, and they're maternity leggings, and we consider them to be a fashion product. And so we want them to be styled up or styled in a bunch of different ways. And, that's Nike's view. And Puma's view might be that they have the similar types of products, but they really don't have a strong preference in that category of how to style them. Right. And so, but they really care about their heavily patterned leggings needing to be styled with matching items, right? So you have these sorts of different nuances for different brands, and a really good system in the space has to be able to fully reflect that and the other 50 things that they say, because otherwise, what happens is the merchants, the people who are sort of stand up for the brand, are going to say, the outfits look nice, but they're not our outfits. We can't put them in front of the customer and say that this is ours. And our retailers don't put Stylitics name on it, right? We are behind the scenes, and our job is primarily to help them scale their vision. And so we've now built a very advanced system that allows us to tell it effectively anything that a human merchant might be able to tell us. And it's really powerful because even if the taxonomy doesn't have certain concepts, like if there's nothing in the taxonomy that says patterned maternity leggings, we were able to teach the system to find those, understand what those are, including with new ones coming in, and then actually treat them as a different type of product, style them with certain guidelines and rules. And this is sort of sitting on top of the 99% of the universal rules we have. And this is a fairly simple, straightforward process now with the system we have. And so it allows us, James and Paul might say, hey, we have this new drop, and we really want to make sure that this new collection is styled amongst itself. And if that was an instruction we had yesterday, we could add it today, and it's going to be reflected across all the outfits. So I might be getting super deep into a rabbit hole there, but like this is the part where it goes from an algorithm could run this, an algorithm could do these sorts of things at the 75% mark, but to really close this gap is where the fun and the hard stuff is.
Yeah, it's interesting because some brands are much more precious about what associations can be made and how they visually merchandise, and are terrified of letting a machine make any decisions in terms of. Out of interest, do you find that many businesses allow the black box to do its business and learn from that and then apply the rules, or do people always start with the brand controls first and then allow the machine to make decisions on top of that?
So our process is, we invite the brand and merchandiser the rules and what we call styling guidelines at the beginning of the process. And so our team, we actually have dedicated teams that'll go in, and they're super expert at kind of soliciting and getting out all of the things that the visual merchants or the creative director or whoever it is will have. And these are, this is like an hour conversation. And what we'll then do is we'll ingest it, we'll apply it. We can then generate 1,000 outfits. We come back and we have a visual platform at the back end, and they can look at it, and then they can say, you got it mostly right, but actually I forgot to tell you that we want to treat this sort of product a different way, or I don't really love what's happening over here. And so our rule is no bad outfits. Like this is not a system that we kind of learn on the retailer or the brand's dime and time in front of their shoppers, right? Because it's such a, unlike product recommendations, which is another category. It's not a category we play much in. In product recommendations, the job of the product recs, like other people also like, or similar products, is sort of to save the sale. Right? You want to be able to make sure that somebody who didn't like that particular jacket is not going to walk away. You want them to look at other jackets. And so any one product out of the selection works. In outfitting or bundling, every single outfit, every bundle has to be at least very good. Because this is, a loyal shopper coming to, let's say, the Bloomingdale's site is going to look at these outfits, and they think that the Bloomingdale's stylists and merchants are giving them this advice in the form of these outfits. And if the outfits don't look good, it detracts from the brand. And so we have this interesting and fun challenge where on day one of launch, they all have to look, all 10,000 outfits or 100,000 outfits have to look really good and have to really reflect the brand's vision. And so before we ramp, in the kind of weeks preceding, we're showing them these different batches that, will have more human involvement in the beginning and then increasingly less human involvement leading up to sort of this big launch. And, we're sort of very proud of this fact that in most cases, within a few weeks post-launch or a few days post-launch, even some of the most particular brands and retailers in the world are no longer looking over the work, right? They're just saying, go for it. So that's where we're able to, it's not that we are asking them to let us run an algorithm for 6 months on their site, showing a bunch of bad outfits and learning from it. We have to show up day one with really good stuff.
That makes sense. One of the highlights, or one of the features that James has highlighted here in our notes is the swap feature. And I personally haven't seen this. So can you talk me and the listeners through how it works, what it is, and a few examples of how it's added value to some of your clients?
Yeah, so just functionally, it's a mix and match feature. It's our patented mix and match feature, and the idea is, we will present the shopper on this particular product detail page or in galleries or wherever else across the site they're seeing this. We're going to show them the outfit that we think is right for them, personalized outfit that's right for them. They may have, some shoppers, and by our data, it's about somewhere between 8 and 15% of shoppers who are engaged with the outfitting will actually click in and want to swap other things in. And so we actually let them click into the outfit, and it becomes an interactive element. And they can actually select from other, let's call it, if it's a jacket, it's the top, it's bottoms, it's earrings, and some flats, like that's the outfit. The shopper might say, I like this, I like the outfit. I would just want to see it with different flats or different shoes. And so she can actually click on the shoes and see a selection of other things that already would go with the outfit and start swapping them in. And the actual image on the site changes. And so she's able to kind of do a little mix and match exploration right there without leaving the product detail page or wherever she is. And this scores really high marks with a certain kind of shopper. Because I think, there's shoppers who just want the cheat sheet. And the shoppers who say, look, I know my own style. It's helpful to have you kick me off, but I want to be the one who's finally doing this. And so we have versions that sort of sit in their own dedicated parts of the site, but also embedding this mix and match feature is really powerful. And what you see is that for those shoppers, obviously key metrics like time on site and stuff really goes up. But really, what you're seeing is you see much higher conversion rates for that particularly picky shopper who otherwise would be wanting to do all of their research and all of that. They're actually ending up doing it on your site. So it's a pretty powerful tool. And we have about, I think, 50 major retailers using this. Some of the stats that you mentioned at the beginning of our time, they're much larger now. So we're in the ballpark of 150 million shoppers by our estimates every month. And so about 50 to 60 million shoppers every month are using the mix and match feature.
Great. Yeah, I'll give it a go after we finish recording, but it sounds like a great feature. So a second ago, you said that you don't tend to play in the recommendation space, but one of the features that, again, we've got in our notes is kind of upsells or cross sells within the shopping cart. Can you talk us through kind of what your offering looks like here?
Yeah, and it's sort of variations on a theme in terms of showing people the outfit of the bundle. Just zooming out for a second, what we're trying to do and what we've been able to do is, we're trying to change the shopper from a sort of transactional mindset where they click on an ad because they like a product, they go to a product detail page, they look at it, they say, it's a little expensive, or let me look elsewhere, and then they kind of go away. Or in different parts of the funnel, there's something in their cart, but they're still not sure about it. We're trying to make them. We still want to convert them. We still want to push conversion through, but we're trying to change it from them sort of just using it as a giant catalog of products to start to think about style, their own closet, how they would wear this, the versatility and the value they get from it. And so, the product recs part is not so much individual products that show you more of the same. It's really, we sort of think of the 3 V's, which is when somebody's looking at a particular product, especially in this environment where you have people who are, the general shopper, at least we know from the US, I think it's across the UK and multiple markets, everyone's a little more price sensitive, or they're spending spending elsewhere. And so they're not just willing to spend as much on basics, for example, as they used to. In that moment, if somebody's looking at something and it's, it's a dress for £100 or whatever it is, you want to really reinforce for the shopper that, hey, there's a lot of different ways you can wear this. You can actually dress it up for going out at night, but you can also dress it down and go to brunch with it. And showing them that versatility does a couple of things. Like, first of all, it drives the conversion if people actually buy it. But then they're also discovering other products that they otherwise wouldn't have seen. And their mindset is now changed from, I just want to get this one thing, to, maybe I'll spend a little more time here. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but that's, increasing average order value is a really challenging thing. Not a lot of tech can support that. And that's really that and the cross-sell part is where we play.
One of the areas in fashion that's always quite tricky around getting really accurate product associations is the sizing thing. There are other areas where you can do bundles where sizing isn't an issue. It's just down to product availability. But you might have a trousers and a top, and depending on the stock view, you might actually struggle to get the match because few items of the tops are out of stock, or they're not compatible with the sizing of the trousers.
Yeah,
that adds complexity. Like, does your platform handle that? Do you take into consideration the size matching piece when you're looking at the bundles and what you represent to people?
We do. We do a few different ways. So, one dimension of this is just inventory levels. So we are tracking inventory levels for all the products. And so, we have general kind of guidelines and rules on, when we should be using products, if they're size broken, then like a couple sizes we don't, etc. But really, we're making sure that the outfits all have appropriate sizing. Actually, this outfit form factor is very powerful because as long as the size is available, it does something very interesting, which is, we've tested, on model stuff. We've tested showing like avatar. We've tested a lot of different things, but ultimately, most people don't look like the models. And so, showing stuff off model and showing the products together, as long as they're available, actually gets you around some of the size constraints in looking at the outfit. It's really just saying, do these products pair well together? So that said, we do style plus size products completely different than sort of, regular, quote unquote, regular sizing or petite sizing or big and tall. We are looking, the system is making sure that, if there was a certain top that's appropriate for a certain body shape, it might go with high-waisted pants that may not work with another body shape. So certainly there's the style component, but there's also the kind of wearing together component.
And you also, if I understood correctly, you also offer integration into email for like campaign marketing programs. I love it. Could you explain to people how it works? So is this like generic bundle associations going to anybody, or is it personalized to the customer based on their, their browsing profile, their purchase history? Could you give us a bit more detail on that, please?
Yeah. So for about 75 or 80 of our retailers, and I think that number's going up. This is actually across several channels. So once you have this always fresh, live pool of visual content, suddenly the marketers are like, hey, wait a second. I don't have to go through the studio process. I don't have to, pay for incremental content. We have 50,000 pieces of content that are available and in stock. And so it just makes sense to push this into social and ads and other places, and email is a really high performing version of that. And so to answer your question, the simple ways to do this that are really in that post-purchase or abandoned cart, where it's typically tied to the product to start out with. So if you were looking at the jacket you're wearing, or the sweatshirt you're wearing, we will show you the best outfits available. So you abandoned it, or let's say you bought it, instead of just showing you here are more products you like, we'll actually send you outfits that work with that product. And that's sort of the generic version, although it's delivered to you personally, so it feels more personal. But increasingly now, as we turn on our personalized outfitting and personalized bundling technologies, the more we know about you, the better the outfits are to come back. So obviously localization, but the outfit form factor allows us to know a lot more about you. So as you browse or as you purchase something, you might like very minimalist looks. You might not like big logos. You might like stuff that tends to be in a certain price point. And of the 200 outfits that are available, we would push the best outfits to you, or we would create outfits for you and send those to you in email. So we're now kind of progressing from more generic to more personalized.
And we talked a week or so ago when we're planning this session, and we're talking about ROIs and how people can justify investment in tools. And you said that there's an average ROI in year one of like up to 32 times. And I know, I'm sure you're used to this. E-commerce folk are naturally skeptical of sales claims. So I'd love to know, how is ROI measured and validated to know that it's like incremental revenue?
And this is my favorite moment in every relationship with a customer, because everybody starts out with the skepticism, which I completely support. We know the claims out there are, everybody seems to be driving, all this revenue. So no, it's very straightforward for us. So first of all, our ROI calculation is based on how much they pay us, which is an annual subscription for the number of products we're styling and the number of applications they're using. And it's actually a fairly affordable solution, oftentimes less than 2/3 of a full-time person with doing the work of 500 people, so to speak, right? But so we have our kind of base costs, and then when we launch with an A/B test. We can run the A/B test or they can, and it's a 50-50 split typically. And it's some people see, one cohort is seeing outfits, and the other on the same product page is just not seeing it. And our goal is to say, what is the impact on average order values, oftentimes driven by the number of purchases? What's the impact on conversion rate from seeing outfits across the overall session? And we have the tracking, quote unquote, pixel on the other side, and it's just very straightforward. And the 32x is actually not up to, it's an average for us. And if you actually look at categories like home, it's much higher. If you look at kids, it's much higher. And it's just, frankly, it's a function of the size of the retailer we work with. We're driving, for some of these retailers, if you can drive 0.5% increase in conversion rate because of the volume, because we're on most product pages, we're across galleries, we're on a home page, we're on in other parts of the site. You're seeing a vast majority of their traffic going through this, and that increase in conversion rate does have this like a multi-million-dollar a month kind of impact. For smaller retailers, it'll take a little bit of time to get there to that 32x, right? So if you're doing 25 million a year in revenue, for us to give you that kind of impact, you will get there. We might want to iterate and tweak and do a few things, but you do get there. So first year one might be 15, 20x ROI, but then that's the benchmark we look for. We have large retailers who are basically paying off probably a decade of Stylitics in the first 6 weeks. So it's really, I wish I could claim greater credit, but it's just the math works out really nicely for the big ones.
Right. And in terms of like examples, like who of your customers do you, or like who are your favorites from a design and like utilization perspective?
Yeah, of the ones who've sort of been public. So Nike, for example, has a really nice implementation, big, beautiful outfits with tons of great real estate. They use our hotspots version. So it has kind of an Instagram-like vibe to it. And that's really nice. And that team is sort of, as you'd imagine, very sophisticated in how they do all of this. And so it's a really nice implementation. You have, retailers like Kohl's, big department store. Certainly they've leveraged everything else we do, but they have now used our featured shop product, which is dynamic galleries, interactive galleries with outfits and items and tabs on top that are, instead of going through the 15-week cycle to create marketing landing pages, you can do it in 2 or 3 minutes using our back-end tech. And now increasingly it'll be fully automated. They have now used Stylitics featured shop in addition to everything else they're doing to like transform 200 pages across their site. And so now they are moving literally 15 times faster than the competition in terms of being able to respond to trends and other things, because they're using Stylitics outfits to publish a new landing page with really a lookbook overnight. So they've done it really nicely. In the home category, you have Trade & Battle has done a really nice job of the user experience. This is in a different layout. It's a mood board layout. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of some others. Bowden has a really nice implementation. Yeah, I think what we found. Express. So Express is really embraced the technology. They've been public in terms of saying that this is actually, and in some cases driving 60% higher average order values. And they have put it into every part of the site experience, the email experience, the app experience, and really a native value proposition. And it just feels so nicely integrated into Express. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. We get a lot of really good partnership from retailers.
And you, when we started, you said obviously you're working with a lot of the big retailers and big brands, and this suits well at scale because of the efficiencies of automating. How does the pricing model work? Because there might be some smaller businesses out there thinking, actually, this is not realistic for me. It's probably too big and too expensive, which might not be the right thing for them to think. So, what's an entry point? What sort of size of catalog does a business need to have to make it worthwhile?
It's definitely not something that a mid-sized brand should forego. I mean, this is now just our view, and I think the market's view. This is table stakes. Right now, if you look at least the US shoppers and increasingly in the UK and other markets, this is something that shoppers are seeing multiple times a month across different retailers, and so it is now table stakes for brands. If you have a few hundred products across a couple of categories, this works for you. And I think that if you can afford, a marketing coordinator, you can, sort of use those dollars or that equivalent of dollars and get started with Stylitics. So, and it'll pay for itself very fast. So it's not something that you need to sort of start out with hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, just using US currency here. So it's we also are very comfortable with letting people try it. I mean, there's a price for that, but you can try it for 4 or 6 months, see it working for yourself. We'll still give you the full solution. It's not like you get kind of a stripped down version. It's something that increasingly this year, as we've spun up a team in the UK, spun up a team and focused on Europe. And we know that budgets are in this environment are also different. And so we've tried to make it super straightforward for people to say, I want to try it and see it work for myself. And it shouldn't be prohibitive for most.
Right. And your point there around being able to try it takes me nicely onto my next point. So you offer a pilot, which is a 3 to 6 month test, as far as I know. Who is this eligible to? And is there any commitment beyond that pilot? And also you mentioned there's a cost for that. How does that typically work?
Yeah. So for us, it's just about getting everybody lined up past that point of skepticism, right? So you're just like, oh well, they're saying this is working so well, so I just want to see it in action. And so we're not, we let people start it off with a few thousand products or a few hundred products, and they'll still get everything else that we put a lot of skin in the game. So we will still treat them like a full customer. Obviously, we will pull in their feed. Like I said, it's lightweight for them. We'll do all of the steps I described. We'll make, our team will really make sure that their vision is represented. And then, get it started on a few hundred products or a couple thousand products, see it working. Let's run the A/B test. And then once you are satisfied that it's having a strong impact, then we sit down and we sort of plan, what does it look like to scale this up? And which ways do you want to scale it up? Do you want to scale it up in terms of number of products, which is the typical step? Do you want to get this into email next? You want to get into social next. In terms of requiring a longer term commitment, we just to be we're sort of simple people in this regard. We're like, if let the tech speak for itself. We're not going to make it complicated. We do want your active engagement and commitment in those 3 to 6 months. Like, just treat it like something that we both want to succeed. But we're not going to sit around and ask you for all kinds of like complicated commitments and things like that. So we've had a very, very good track record and good history of, I would say 75% or more of our customers today who, many of whom do pay us very large sums that are making very, very large sums for them, started out as like $50,000 pilots. So we're very, very comfortable with that approach. And if it doesn't work for somebody, which I think it's happened twice in the last 2 or 3 years, from a few hundred, or 100 plus customers, we will all scratch our heads and say, how come it's not working for you? We'll try to solve for it, but we're not going to try to wrap them up in something that doesn't work for them.
That makes sense. And last question, what's next for the product and your business going into 2023?
Yeah, so we're feeling pretty excited about the future. We this year, a few months ago, we raised $80 million in our Series C, and that capital is really towards new product expansions. Really trying to get our existing customers a lot more value and a lot more features, etc. So I know you guys are probably sick of talking about personalization. For us, personalization, we're not trying to solve everybody's personalization problems. We just think if you're going to show people bundles and outfits, show them the most personalized way possible. And so there's a lot of tech there. We're also launching other features that help, like My Closet features and personalized lookbooks and smarter digital dressing rooms and other things that just take, again, go away from the just transactional, hey, giant catalog of products, let me look at it, look at the price and walk away, to trying to help retailers turn their sites into a style destination. There's a huge opportunity there for that. So that's one big area. Another big area is our customers have about 40,000 stores, and seeing the success of it online, they're all asking us, to partner on store implementations and how we bring it to store. So that's a big area of focus. And then just really, investing in the UK, investing in the EU. These are really important markets for us to grow into. We know that you can't just bring our US centric or North America centric ways into these new markets and just sort of presume we will succeed in it. We really want to understand, the dynamics in these other markets, and so just spinning up really good people and teams there. So, short version of saying, like, just product growth, really.
Interesting to hear you talk about the I guess the look, but the more interactive elements where people really want to come up and have a flexible way of playing with styles to create their own, because that leads really well into the automatic bundling process. Instead of having to preset bundles, allow people to create dynamically their own. And there are tools going back a few years that tried to do it, but the user interface was just very, very clunky, and it never really caught on. So I'm intrigued to know, right. And I'd love you to let us know when you've got something in a beta or on that level. You know, is that high up the roadmap, or you're not, or too?
Oh, yeah. No, it's high up the roadmap. You know, our main focus is really on, right now what we do is, and I can go off on a very long tangent on all of these topics, so you should really stop me if I do that. It's high on the list, but really what we're trying to solve for is taking, driving up the lifetime value of the shopper, really revenue per year, because we do a very effective job of, driving up revenue per session. But there's such a huge opportunity, if you just think of our own shopping habits. We go a couple different places for sweaters, we go a couple different places for jeans, and we really could be putting a lot more of our shopper dollars or share of wallet into specific retailers, but they just don't give up very much, right? They don't really remember you. They don't really reward you for coming back. There aren't better tools and use cases and useful things you can do because you're a customer. It's sort of been boiled down to a very transactional thing, which is the occasional discount or loyalty points. And it just feels like a huge missed opportunity to create, just give shoppers additional tools that are super easy to use. They're super optional. They're integrated into the workflow. We're not trying to create something that's extremely gimmicky and complicated to use. That's not what shoppers want. A very simple idea, for example, is, hey, I've bought 10 things with retailer X in the last 2 years. A bunch of stuff is arriving new. Why don't you just show me how those products would go well with the stuff you have? Right? Let me start there. So I don't have to try to figure this out for myself. You do the heavy lifting, and then let me mix and match it and do all of that. So that's something we call My Closet. That's very high up on the roadmap. And that's one simple example. Another example is to say, look, you've browsed a bunch of things in your session, and why not take the 5 things I browsed, and whether through email or through a part of the site, just send me lookbooks based on those products, right? So, and categories, do it intelligently. If I look and I'm looking for button-down shirts, okay, I'm interested in that. If I looked at a particular brand, I'm interested in that. Just pull in looks, pull in products, figure out my price points, and kind of give me these little mini stores. And let me pick up my sort of session again from there later. And this is all kind of going back to this theme of, most of e-commerce, most of physical retail for a shopper is noise, right? I'm and I'll keep this very short, but if I go into let's just say Macy's, and I'm shopping for myself, all women's stuff, all kids stuff is all irrelevant. And Macy's customer, so I'm just sort of using them as an example. All the sizes that I wouldn't wear, all the styles I wouldn't wear, all the occasions I wouldn't wear are noise. But there's a small set of things that would be very relevant for me. And I just wish that modern retailers would bring me those products first, show me how to style them, give me that inspiration and education, and then I can go explore everything else, right? So instead of making me fight through everything that's irrelevant to get to the point. So we're trying to really explore that idea and make sure it's a kind of usable experience for shoppers.
Cool. Yeah, I really like that idea of not just constantly here's a new bundle, but look, you've got stuff you've already paid for. Let's help you style that with some new cool stuff, so you don't have to buy a new outfit every bloody time. So
exactly.
I really like that thinking. Cool. Look, Rohan, we've gone through. I'm sure we could sit here and talk about the exponential potential for merchandising to the cows come out, but really appreciate you taking the time to sit and share information. If somebody listening wants to probe you on a few use cases or talk about a specific project and how the pricing might work, how do they contact?
Yeah, they're welcome to shoot me an email. It's rohan@stylitics.com, ROHAN @stylitics.com, and we can direct them from there.
Cool. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're jet lagged after a long flight over to Dubai for the holidays. I wish you a very lovely Christmas with your family. And thanks everyone for listening. Do keep an ear open for our next episode as well. We'll drop one every week. We would love you to subscribe if you haven't already. And we do like ratings on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and now on Amazon as well. So thanks very much, everybody. Until next week.